Welcome to another deep dive where we sift through a stack of information to unearth the most crucial insights. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's, well, absolutely vital for any organization aiming to navigate and even flourish amidst the unexpected challenges life throws our way.
Indeed. We're talking about foresight, resilience, and strategic preparation. It's fundamentally about ensuring your organization isn't just surviving, but truly capable of weathering any storm, be it a natural disaster, a sophisticated cybersecurity incident, or even, an unpredictable economic downturn.
Okay, our compass for today's exploration is CISSP Chapter 3, Business Continuity Planning. This chapter serves as a bit of a masterclass, particularly touching on key domains like security and risk management. It shows us how to identify, analyze, assess, prioritize, and implement a robust business continuity requirements, perform deep business impact analyses, and account for crucial external dependencies. It also delves into security operations, specifically focusing on how to actively participate in business continuity planning and those, well, all-important exercises.
Right. This deep dive is really designed to equip you with the core concepts behind preparing for those curveballs life throws at us. We'll unpack how truly resilient organizations don't just react to crises, but proactively build sophisticated plans and procedures. The goal: to minimize impact and quickly return to normal operations.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Get ready to uncover the essential elements of keeping an organization not just afloat, but fully operational, even when disaster strikes. Let's unpack this together. Let's kick things off with the absolute basics then. When we talk about business continuity planning, often abbreviated as BCP, what exactly are we referring to?
Right. So at its heart, business continuity planning, or BCP, it's about far more than just reacting. It involves meticulously assessing the risks to an organization's critical processes, and then crucially, creating policies, plans, and procedures to drastically minimize the impact those risks would have if they actually materialized. Think of it less like a Band-Aid after an injury, and more like building a comprehensive, earthquake-proof foundation for your entire business. Its ultimate aim is to ensure the continuous operation of your business, maintaining its mission-critical work tasks even in the face of an emergency. It's about proactive resilience, not just reactive recovery.
So the goal isn't merely to recover after something catastrophic happens,
No.
but to actively keep the lights on and operations flowing during disruption itself.
Exactly. BCP is laser-focused on maintaining ongoing business operations, even if that means functioning with, say, reduced or restricted infrastructure capabilities or resources. As long as the organization's ability to perform its core, essential work is maintained, BCP is actively at play, managing the situation and setting the stage for full restoration. It's about ensuring the organization's continued viability, its pulse, through thick and thin, really.
Now, I often hear business continuity planning, BCP, mentioned in the same breath as disaster recovery planning, or DRP. Are they essentially two sides of the same coin, or is there a crucial distinction we need to grasp?
Yeah, that's a very common point of confusion, and honestly, in the real world, the lines can indeed feel a bit blurry sometimes. But the key differentiator between BCP and disaster recovery planning, or DRP, it boils down to one word: perspective. Both are vital activities that prepare an organization for disaster, but they approach the problem from fundamentally different angles.
Okay, that sounds important. Can you unpack that distinction for us? How does that difference in perspective play out?
Sure. Think of BCP as the strategic sort of bird's eye view. It's focused on the overall business processes and operations. The BCP asks, how does a business continue to function? Like, if your primary system goes down, can your sales team still take orders? Even if it's manual, can you still process payments? That kind of thing. Disaster recovery planning, or DRP on the other hand, is typically more tactical and granular. It describes the specific technical activities required to bring systems back online: recovering IT infrastructure, activating backup data centers, restoring data from backups, ensuring fault tolerance for hardware.
Oh, I see.
It's the how-to guide for the technology side. The nuts and bolts of getting the systems back online, the data restored, and connectivity reestablished.
So BCP is the what business continues, and DRP is the how IT supports that continuity. Strategy versus technical execution, basically.
You've got it. That distinction is where the real insight lies. However, what's truly fascinating here is that while they are distinct, they are deeply interconnected. They're mutually dependent.
Right.
They aren't in competition, they are partners. The overall goal for both is a swift, calm, and efficient response to an emergency, enhancing a company's ability to recover promptly. They work hand in hand to keep the business alive.
Makes sense.
And here's where it gets really interesting, a point that often gets lost in the technical jargon. The absolute top priority for both BCP and DRP, above all else, is always people.
Always people.
Always. You simply must get people out of harm's way, ensure their safety and well-being, before you can even begin to address IT recovery or business restoration issues. It's a fundamental, non-negotiable principle. It supersedes any technical or financial goal. Safety first, always.
Okay, that's a crucial baseline. If we zoom out and connect this to the bigger picture, what are the fundamental phases or core elements of a complete, robust BCP process?
Right. So the BCP process, when done correctly, typically follows four main elements that build upon each other. We'll delve into each of these as we go. First, there's project scope and planning. This is all about defining the boundaries, establishing the foundation, and initiating the whole effort.
Okay.
Second, business impact analysis, or BIA. This is where you conduct a deep dive into understanding the potential effects of disruption on your organization.
The BIA, got it.
Third, continuity planning. Once you understand the impact, this phase involves developing the actual strategies and procedures to maintain operations during a crisis.
Right, the doing parts.
And fourth, plan approval and implementation. This final stage is about securing the necessary buy-in from leadership and, critically, putting the plan into action, making sure it's not just a document, but a living, breathing capability.
Let's dive into that first element then, project scope and planning. This sounds like the blueprint phase. What exactly does it entail for an organization?
You're right. It's absolutely about laying the groundwork. Any formalized business process, especially one as critical and complex as BCP, demands a proven methodology. Organizations approach this initial planning with several key goals in mind. They perform a thorough organizational review from a crisis planning point of view, essentially taking a panoramic look at their operations to identify vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Following that, they move to BCP team selection, building the right team with crucial senior management approval. That approval is key. Next, they meticulously assess the resource requirements, what financial, human, and technical assets are needed for all business continuity activities. And finally, they deeply analyze external dependencies, understanding how the legal and regulatory landscape, as well as external partners, influence and govern an organization's response. The exact steps, of course, will vary based on the organization's size, its nature. There's truly no one-size-fits-all guide here.
Understood.
The core purpose, though, is to ensure you dedicate sufficient time and attention to developing the plan, and just as importantly, to meticulously documenting all activities for future reference, making sure everything is tracked and transparent.
So the very first step within this foundational phase is an organizational review. What does that truly involve, and who are the key players or departments that absolutely need to participate?
Okay, this is an analytical deep dive. Its job is to pinpoint every department and individual who has a stake in the BCP process. It's the foundational analysis that informs who should even be considered for your BCP team. Areas that must be considered include your operational departments. Those are the lifeblood providing core services to clients, like customer support or order fulfillment.
The core functions.
Exactly. Then critical support services, such as your IT department, facilities maintenance, other groups that keep the daily machinery running. Also, corporate security teams, who are often the first responders on the ground responsible for physical safeguarding.
Yeah.
And, without a doubt, senior executives. Their leadership and decisions are absolutely essential for the ongoing viability of the organization itself. This step truly builds the foundation for the entire BCP process. A really thorough review here is critical, because overlooking even one critical business function or department can create a gaping hole, negatively affecting the entire BCP and making it prone to failure.
Yeah, like a weak link in a chain.
Yeah, precisely. It's like trying to build a resilient structure on a shaky, incomplete foundation. It simply won't hold up when the storms hit.
And when you're conducting this review, should it be limited to the main headquarters? Or should it account for all physical locations, even remote ones?
Oh, absolutely. When developing a business continuity plan, you must cast a wide net. Consider all your physical locations. That means your headquarters, every single branch office, remote work sites, and critically, any cloud service providers or co-location facilities you use.
Even the cloud providers.
Definitely. A disaster isn't polite enough to only strike your main office. It could occur at any location. Your plan simply must account for all of them to ensure comprehensive coverage and true resilience.
Okay, comprehensive is key. Once that organizational review is done, The next crucial step is selecting the BCP team. What are the common pitfalls organizations encounter here, and who are the indispensable individuals you should be looking to include?
Yeah, this is a big one. One of the most critical flaws we often see is the isolated development of a BCP. Like, maybe just the IT team, perhaps well-meaning but narrowly focused, develops the plan in a silo.
I can see that happen.
And this approach inevitably leads to plans that fail to take into account day-to-day operational realities. It can disengage crucial units and deny the organization the immense benefits of a truly structured planning and testing program. The operational teams might look at the plan and say, well, this doesn't reflect how we actually work, making it incredibly difficult to implement when it matters most.
So how do you avoid that silo effect?
To prevent this isolation, the team needs to be incredibly diverse. It needs to draw representatives from across the organization. You should include representatives from your core service departments, those on the front lines, the business unit team members identified as critical during the organizational analysis, deep-level information technology, or IT, subject matter experts who understand the tech infrastructure inside and out. Cybersecurity team members who grasp the digital threat landscape. Professionals from physical security and facility management for the physical plant. Attorneys familiar with your corporate legal, regulatory, and contractual responsibilities. That's critical.
Legal, right.
Human resources, or HR, team members for staffing and employee impact issues during a crisis. Public relations, or PR, team members for managing communications with stakeholders and the public. And perhaps most critically, senior management representatives. They're essential for setting the strategic vision, defining priorities, and allocating resources.
That truly is a diverse group with so many different perspectives, functions. How do you ensure everyone works cohesively and effectively together rather than getting bogged down in, turf battles?
That's exactly why careful selection is vital. You need to strike a delicate balance between these different points of view and cultivate a group that can operate effectively even if there are strong personalities or competing departmental priorities. A diverse team with strong leadership is far more likely to create a truly comprehensive and robust plan.
So leadership is key.
Effective leadership is absolutely key to channeling those inherent biases productively, steering clear of those turf battles that can derail the entire effort. Each member brings a unique piece of the puzzle, right? And when those pieces are integrated thoughtfully, the result is a far more resilient and well-rounded plan.
You've mentioned senior management repeatedly. Just how critical is their involvement and buy-in for a successful BCP effort? What happens if they're not fully on board?
Their role is not just critical, it's absolutely paramount. It also varies a bit with the organization's culture, of course. Senior management is the ultimate arbiter. They set the strategic priorities, they provide the necessary financial resources, and they arbitrate any disputes about which services are truly most critical. Without their active participation and endorsement, a BCP plan might just end up collecting dust on a shelf. An academic exercise rather than a living, actionable blueprint.
Just a document.
Exactly. And here's what's truly fascinating and often underestimated. Senior executives have a fiduciary responsibility to exercise due diligence in BCP execution.
Fiduciary, so a legal responsibility.
Yes. This isn't just a nice to have, it's a legal and ethical obligation to protect the organization's assets, its reputation, and ultimately its continued viability for its shareholders. If, for instance, a publicly traded company's directors fail to exercise due diligence in contingency planning and a major disruption occurs, they can face significant legal consequences.
Wow.
It's not merely a good idea, it's a fundamental part of their job, deeply tied to corporate governance.
So BCP isn't just about good business practice, but it's often a direct legal and ethical obligation for leadership. That's a significant burden. What are the specific mechanisms that hold them accountable? Is it always just about fines, or are there other repercussions?
Exactly. It's a non-negotiable aspect of their responsibility.
Yeah.
And beyond fines, repercussions can include shareholder lawsuits, significant damage to personal and corporate reputation, loss of investor confidence.
Okay.
And even in extreme cases, potential criminal charges, particularly if negligence leads to severe harm or loss of life. So you simply must present a compelling case to management that spending on BCP and disaster recovery planning, or DRP, isn't a discretionary expense like, a new coffee machine.
Right.
It's fundamental to protecting the organization's shareholders and its very existence. Consider a sobering real-world scenario. I recall a Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO,
CISO.
a senior executive responsible for an organization's information and data security from a healthcare system. This CISO was astonishingly confident that an informal, unstructured approach would suffice for BCP.
Really? In healthcare?
Yes. Their organization had not conducted a formal BCP process at all. This attitude was, frankly, shocking, especially given the sector. It's one of the strongest arguments against failing to commit resources to BCP because unavailability of systems in healthcare, for example, can have direct life or death consequences for patients.
Absolutely.
This a Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA.
CISA, the U.S. agency.
Yes, a U.S. federal agency leading national efforts on cyber and physical infrastructure risk. CISA even issued a stark alert back in October 2020 about ransomware targeting healthcare. And they specifically highlighted that robust continuity plans are essential. This really illustrates that preparation isn't just about preventing financial loss, it's about protecting human lives and societal well-being.
That healthcare CISO story is chilling, and it perfectly illustrates the human cost. What's one of the biggest aha moments you've seen an executive have when they finally grasp the true stakes of BCP?
The biggest aha moment. I think it often comes when an executive realizes the cascading effect of a single failure. It's not just our servers are down. It's our servers are down so we can't process claims, which means we can't pay our employees, which means they can't pay their rent, which means our reputation is in tatters, which means our stock price plummets, and then we're potentially out of business.
That whole chain reaction.
Exactly. That sudden realization that a technical issue can spiral into an existential threat for the entire enterprise, that's often when the true buy-in happens. Then they become a real champion for BCP.
Okay, that makes sense. Once the team is assembled and senior management is fully on board, what kind of resources are we talking about for a comprehensive BCP effort? It sounds like it could be quite an investment.
It absolutely is an investment, and a significant one, but, one that usually pales in comparison to the cost of a catastrophic failure. After validating your organizational review and understanding your priorities, you assess the resources needed across 3 distinct BCP phases. First, BCP development. This initial phase consumes a significant amount of intellectual capital, time, dedicated effort from your BCP team members, and support staff. It's often the major resource consumed initially.
Right, the planning itself takes time.
Yeah. Then second, BCP testing, training, and maintenance. This phase requires tangible hardware and software commitments and substantial staff effort for running simulations, conducting drills, ongoing training. You need to ensure the plan actually works in practice.
And that people know what to do.
Exactly. And third, BCP implementation. This is where the rubber truly meets the road. When a disaster strikes, the BCP team requires substantial resources for full-scale implementation. These resources often involve direct financial expenses, activating recovery sites, paying for emergency communications, even basic office supplies at an alternate location. This phase will likely be a major focus of your immediate expenditure.
The actual emergency spending.
Right. An effective BCP requires significant expenditure. It can range from setting up redundant computing facilities, which can be millions of dollars, down to ensuring you have basic office supplies at an alternate site. Many security professionals might overlook the importance of accounting for labor costs and the time-consuming site activities, but business leaders are keenly aware of the impact on operational productivity. So, you need to present a coherent, logical, and thoroughly documented business case to senior executives. This case shouldn't just list costs, but also articulate the immense value of preventing lost productivity, mitigating revenue losses, preserving reputation, thereby defending your BCP proposal as a strategic necessity.
Got it. It sounds like BCP is a huge internal undertaking, requiring immense coordination within the organization. But what about all those things outside the organization's direct control? How do external dependencies factor into this complex picture?
This is where it gets really interesting and often quite challenging. You absolutely must understand and proactively mitigate risks that originate from outside your direct control, particularly from technology vendors supplying critical hardware, software, cloud services.
Your supply chain, essentially.
Exactly. Beyond that, the complex web of legal and regulatory frameworks fundamentally shapes your operational landscape. Each of these external factors has the potential to catastrophically disrupt your internal business operations, so you simply can't afford to focus solely inwards.
So if we rely on a major cloud provider for our operations, for instance, their disaster essentially becomes our disaster. our resilience is directly tied to theirs.
Precisely. Your operational resilience is now inextricably linked and significantly depends on your vendor's continuity arrangements. When contracting for essential services like software as a service or SaaS,
FOSS, right?
a software licensing and delivery model where software is licensed on subscription and centrally hosted, or infrastructure as a service, you absolutely must include robust service level agreements or SLAs.
SLAs. Contracts, basically.
Yes, contracts that define the level of service a provider will deliver. These SLAs should outline specific, measurable commitments for restoring operations in the event of a disaster, detailing how quickly they'll get you back online.
And how do we verify their claims? It's one thing for a vendor to promise something on paper, but how do we gain confidence they can actually deliver when it matters most?
Great question. You must verify the vendor's controls. A common way for reputable vendors to demonstrate their security and reliability is by providing a System and Organization Controls, or SOC report.
SOC reports. Heard of those?
Yeah. These are reports issued by independent auditors that provide an in-depth look at an organization's internal controls. There are different types. A SOC1 report focuses on internal financial controls. A SOC2 report covers security, processing integrity, confidentiality, privacy, and availability. And a SOC3 report is a general use report, less detailed but widely shareable.
Okay.
The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, or AICPA.
AICPA.
The professional organization for CPAs in the U.S. sets the standards for these reports. You don't necessarily need to send an emissary or book flights to visit their data centers. Often, you can simply request an independent auditing firm conduct an assessment of their controls. That gives you an unbiased professional view of their security posture and resilience capabilities.
That's helpful.
Beyond vendors, you face equally critical legal and regulatory requirements. Many industries are deeply bound by sector-specific federal, state, local laws. For example, financial institutions like banks and brokerages operate under incredibly strict data security regulations. Pharmaceutical manufacturers have stringent requirements for product purity and safety.
Right.
As we discussed, officers and directors also bear a significant fiduciary responsibility. Failure to implement an effective BCP could lead to devastating consequences: loss of life, significant property damage, a severe decrease in public confidence, which can have long-lasting, even fatal effects on an organization's future.
So BCP isn't just about minimizing internal operational headaches. It's often a direct legal necessity, with severe penalties for non-compliance.
Precisely. It's a legal imperative. Your contracts might even include service-level agreements, SLAs, with your own customers. If a disaster interrupts your ability to serve clients, you could find yourself in breach of contract, leading to substantial fines and costly lawsuits. On the flip side, a strong, thoroughly documented BCP can also be a significant competitive advantage. It helps you win new clients, retain existing ones, by demonstrating your unwavering preparedness and commitment to resilience. It's a powerful statement to the market.
That makes sense.
And a critical point to remember here: your organization's legal counsel must be intimately familiar with every legal, regulatory, and contractual obligation that applies to your BCP process. Laws regarding computing systems, business practices, disaster management, they are not static. They change frequently.
Good point.
Lawyers should be involved throughout the entire lifetime of your BCP, especially in the testing and maintenance phases, to ensure ongoing compliance and to help avoid corporate liabilities if the plan proves inadequate during a crisis.
So we've set the scope, gathered our expert team, and now we understand our external dependencies. This brings us to what you call the heart of the BCP process, the Business Impact Analysis, or BIA. What's its core purpose, and what does it reveal?
Right, the BIA. The Business Impact Analysis is a systematic process designed to determine and rigorously evaluate the potential effects of any interruption to your critical business operations. This could be the result of a disaster, an unforeseen accident, or a sudden emergency. It's about quantifying and qualifying the full scope of potential disruptions. The BIA typically progresses through 5 key stages. 1, identifying priorities, pinpointing what absolutely must keep running.
Okay.
2, risk identification, cataloging all potential threats. 3, likelihood assessment, estimating how often those threats might occur.
Right.
4, impact analysis, measuring the potential damage both financially and otherwise. And 5, resource prioritization, deciding where to best allocate your limited resources based on all the gathered data.
5 stages. Got it.
Fundamentally, the BIA identifies the business processes and tasks that are truly critical to an organization's ongoing viability. Then it analyzes the threats to those resources. It meticulously assesses both the likelihood and the potential impact of each threat. This comprehensive data then becomes your compass, guiding you to prioritize your BCP efforts, ensuring you focus energy and resources on what truly matters most for survival and recovery.
When we talk about impact, are we solely focused on monetary losses, or is there a broader perspective we need to consider?
Not just money, no, though that's certainly a significant component. In BIA, we really delve into two primary types of analyses to capture the full picture. First, quantitative impact assessment. This is the cold, hard cash loss. It involves using numbers, formulas, financial metrics to reach a decision, often expressed as a precise dollar value.
The dollar figures.
Exactly. Think of it as putting a direct price tag on the damage, calculating lost revenue during downtime, direct repair costs, fines for contract breaches. Second, qualitative impact assessment. This is where you factor in the less tangible, non-numerical elements, but ones that are equally, if not more, devastating in the long term.
Like reputation.
Precisely. These include vital concerns such as damage to your reputation, loss of investor confidence, workforce instability if employees leave, or the erosion of customer trust. This data, while not a dollar figure, helps you categorize prioritization into high, medium, or low urgency.
Okay.
Both are absolutely essential. While it's tempting for a BCP team to just go with the numbers because they're easier to measure, a thorough qualitative analysis of those less tangible factors is crucial for a well-rounded and truly effective plan. Senior management, in particular, often gives immense weight to qualitative concerns because they understand the broader, non-financial implications of a disaster, like losing decades of built-up brand equity or the trust of their customer base, which numbers alone simply cannot capture.
Right. So the first practical step in the BIA is identifying priorities. How do we go about figuring out what functions are truly the most important, the ones that simply must continue, even in a crisis?
Okay. This step is about precisely identifying those essential business functions that are non-negotiable for day-to-day operations to resume after a disaster. You need to create a comprehensive, exhaustive list of these critical functions, and critically, they vary significantly by organization. For instance, for an online retailer, the ability to sell products via their website might have a maximum tolerable downtime of only a few minutes. Go beyond that, customers might abandon their carts for good.
Very short window.
Very short. On the other hand, internal email might have a slightly longer acceptable downtime, perhaps an hour or two. Important, but not directly revenue generating in the same way. This process involves defining several key metrics that help quantify these priorities. First, asset value, or AV. This is the monetary value you assign to an asset. Forms the foundational basis for many calculations in the BIA. A manufacturing plant with specialized machinery. Very high AV.
Makes sense.
Second, maximum tolerable downtime, or MTD, sometimes also called maximum tolerable outage. This is the absolute longest a specific business function can be inoperable without suffering irreparable harm.
The breaking point.
Exactly. If your e-commerce website can only be down for 15 minutes before you lose a significant portion of customers, 15 minutes is its MTD. Exceed this, the consequences could be catastrophic. Third, recovery time objective, or RTO. This is your targeted duration of time and service level within which a business process must be restored after a disaster to avoid unacceptable consequences. It's the amount of time in which you think you can realistically recover a function. Critically, your RTO must always be less than your MTD. You need to plan to recover faster than the maximum time your business can tolerate being down.
RTO less than MTD.
Got it. And fourth, recovery point objective, or RPO. This metric defines the maximum amount of data loss an organization can tolerate for a critical business process. It dictates the point in time before the incident when the organization should be able to recover data. For instance, if you back up your database transaction logs every 15 minutes, your RPO for that data is 15 minutes, meaning you could potentially lose up to 15 minutes of data.
Okay.
If an incident happens at 8:30 a.m. and your last backup was at 8:14 a.m., you've lost 15 minutes of transactional data. That's your RPO.
So, if I understand correctly, RTO is about how quickly you get operations back up and running.
Yes.
While RPO is about how much data you can afford to lose and still be okay.
Exactly. While RTO and MTD measure the time elapsed to recover operational capability, RPO specifically measures the potential data loss that might occur during an availability incident. They address different but equally critical facets of what it means to recover from a disruption.
Okay, that clarifies RTO versus RPO. The next phase in the BIA is risk identification. This sounds like creating a comprehensive list of all the potential bad things that could possibly happen to an organization. Is that an accurate way to look at it?
That's precisely right. You're systematically identifying every conceivable risk posed to your organization's assets and operations. These risks broadly fall into two categories: natural threats and person-made threats.
Can you give us some vivid examples for both of those categories? Make it real for us?
Of course, natural threats encompass environmental and geological events beyond human control. These include things like violent storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, damaging lightning strikes. Also, natural wildfires, seismic events like earthquakes, mudslides, avalanches, volcanic eruptions, even global phenomena such as widespread pandemic.
Okay, the acts of God category.
Pretty much. On the other side, person-made threats are those caused directly or indirectly by human activity or negligence. This category is vast. It includes terrorist acts, acts of war, civil unrest, workplace violence, internal or external theft, vandalism, accidental or intentional fires, arson, explosions,
Wow, quite a list.
prolonged power outages, even if initiated by a utility failure, building collapses, widespread transportation failures, major internet disruptions, service provider outages affecting critical supply chains, and large-scale economic crises.
So a very broad spectrum.
Very broad. This phase, critically, is purely qualitative at this stage. You're not concerned with the likelihood of these events or the amount of damage they might cause yet. Your sole focus is on simply identifying every potential threat that could impact your organization. This comprehensive initial list then serves as the raw material, driving the subsequent quantitative and qualitative portions of the remaining BIA tasks. It lets you move from simply what if to how often and how bad.
Okay, so we've identified the universe of what could happen. Now, likelihood assessment sounds like the phase where we try to figure out how often these identified risks might actually occur. How do we approach that?
That's spot on. This phase is dedicated to drawing up that comprehensive list of identified events posing a risk, and then, crucially, estimating how likely they are to happen within a specific time frame, usually a year. For example, an earthquake in Southern California is much more plausible, higher likelihood, than a tropical storm hitting, say, Colorado. Location, industry, global trends heavily influence your risk profile here.
Right, context matters.
Absolutely. To quantify this likelihood, we use a key metric called the annualized rate of occurrence, or AR. Yes. This is the estimated frequency with which a specific threat is expected to occur within a one-year period. In essence, it's the number of times a business expects to experience a particular disaster or incident per year. Your BCP team determines the ARO based on historical corporate data, professional experience, and vital insights gleaned from external experts like meteorologists, seismologists, or cybersecurity threat intelligence analysts.
Are there external resources that can help organizations make these likelihood assessments more accurate beyond just internal expertise or historical data? It seems like guessing could be dangerous.
Absolutely. There's a wealth of external data available. Government resources, even insurance companies, often compile and develop vast repositories of risk information that can be incredibly helpful and lend credibility to your ARO figures. For example, the U.S. Geological Survey, or USGS,
USGS, right.
develops detailed earthquake hazard maps showing likelihood of seismic activity across different regions. Similarly, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, coordinates comprehensive flood maps, indicating precise flood risk for various areas, even down to specific properties. There are even highly useful online tools, like the nonprofit First Street Foundation's Flood Factor, which allows you to quickly identify a property's flood risk based on advanced hydrological modeling. These external resources give you a rapid, data-driven assessment that complements your internal knowledge.
That's really useful. So we know what could happen, and we've estimated how often. Now we get to the impact analysis. This sounds like the point where we put a concrete price tag on the damage, right? And how does that connect with the qualitative impacts we discussed earlier?
This is indeed one of the most critical portions of the BIA. Here, we quantify the damage if an identified risk actually occurs. From a purely quantitative point of view, we use three specific, interconnected metrics to calculate this financial impact. First, exposure factor, or EF. This represents the amount of damage a specific risk poses to an asset, expressed as a percentage of that asset's total value.
Percentage loss.
Exactly. If a fire is projected to destroy 70% of a particular building, The EF for fire regarding that building is 70%, or 0.70. It's the proportion of the asset you expect to lose. Second, single loss expectancy, or SLE. This is a monetary loss expected each single time a particular risk materializes.
SLE. Okay. How's that calculated?
Simple formula. SLE equals asset value, AV, exposure factor,
Yep.
EF. So continuing your example, if that building is valued at $500,000 and the EF for a fire is 70%, 0.70, then your SLE is $500,000 multiplied by 0.70, which equals $350,000. That's the financial hit from one fire event.
$350K per fire. Got it.
Third, annualized loss expectancy, or ALE. This is the projected monetary loss the business expects to suffer from a specific risk over a typical one-year period. This is incredibly useful for budgeting and risk management decisions.
ALE and the formula.
Also straightforward. ALE equals single loss expectancy, SLE, annualized rate of occurrence, ARO. So if your SLE is $350,000 and your ARO from the likelihood assessment is 0.03, meaning on average a fire might occur once every 30 years, then your ALE is $350,000 multiplied by 0.03, which results in $10,500.
$10,500 per year for that fire risk.
Exactly. This ALE figure tells you the average yearly cost of that specific fire risk, which is super helpful for budgeting.
That truly makes so much sense with the real numbers. It creates a clear financial picture and ties the likelihood and impact together perfectly for budgeting. But what about those crucial qualitative impacts you mentioned earlier? How do we measure things that aren't easily monetized, like reputation or trust?
Excellent question, and it's vital not to overlook them. From a qualitative point of view, you must deeply consider the non-monetary impact interruptions might have. These are notoriously hard to put a dollar value on, but they are often equally important, if not more so, for the long-term health and survival of an organization. Think about loss of goodwill among your client base. If customers can't access your services, they might quickly go to a competitor and never return. Erosion of loyalty.
Yeah, that's huge.
Loss of employees after prolonged downtime. People need stable work. If your organization is unable to operate for an extended period, top talent might leave. Critical brain drain. Social or ethical responsibilities to the community. If you're a hospital and systems go down, there's immense ethical responsibility. Failure has profound consequences beyond financial loss.
Absolutely.
And negative publicity and brand damage. News travels incredibly fast, especially in a crisis. Negative media coverage can severely damage your brand, impacting future sales, partnerships, recruitment for years.
A long tail of impact.
Right. If you decimate your client base, lose your most skilled workforce, or irreparably harm your hard-earned reputation, you might find yourself with no business left to return to, even if technical operations eventually resume. So while financial numbers provide clear targets, these qualitative factors can represent an existential threat that can't be neatly captured on a balance sheet.
Okay. So we've gathered all this incredibly detailed data from the BIA, the priorities, risks, likelihoods, impacts, both quantitative and qualitative. How do we pull all of that together for resource prioritization? How do we make smart decisions about where to invest our limited resources?
Right. This is the critical final step of the BIA. It's all about making informed decisions for the optimal allocation of your business continuity resources. From a purely quantitative standpoint, it's quite straightforward. You create a list of all identified risks sorted in descending order by their calculated annualized loss expectancy, or ALE.
Highest ALE at the top.
Exactly. Then, you methodically select items from the top of that list until you've exhausted your available BCP budget or resources. This provides a clear, data-driven framework for initial prioritization.
But it's not just about the numbers, you said.
No, and this is crucial, it's not purely a numbers game. You must also integrate those vital qualitative concerns we discussed. You take the prioritized list generated by the BCP team based on quantitative analysis, and you merge it with the prioritized concerns voiced by senior management, who often place immense emphasis on those qualitative factors like brand reputation or customer trust. The goal is to synthesize these into a single, comprehensive, prioritized list that beautifully balances both perspectives.
So if something has a relatively low ALE but presents a huge reputational risk, it might still get a very high priority for resource allocation, even if the numbers don't scream for it.
Precisely. Qualitative concerns can absolutely justify elevating or, in some rare cases, lowering the priority of certain risks. For instance, consider a fire suppression company. If a small fire breaks out in their own facility, the physical damage, the quantitative ALE, might be minimal.
Right.
However, the potential loss of reputation if they fail to protect critical community infrastructure during a larger real-world fire would be immense, perhaps existential. This huge qualitative impact would easily justify a significantly increased priority and resource allocation to that specific type of event, even if the direct financial loss for their own facility is low. It's truly an art as much as a science, blending hard data with nuanced strategic judgment.
Fascinating balance. We've now completed the BIA, and we have a crystal clear picture of what matters most and what could go wrong. That brings us to continuity planning, the third major phase. What's our main objective here?
Okay, this phase marks the transition from analysis to action. Its primary focus is on developing and then implementing a robust continuity strategy. It's designed to minimize the impact any realized risks might have on your protected assets. It directly builds upon all the insights gleaned from the BIA. Within this phase, there are two primary subtasks: strategy development and then creating the specific provisions and processes.
Strategy first, then the details.
Right. The overarching goal here is to craft a comprehensive continuity of operations plan, or COOPLAN, which is a detailed plan outlining precisely how an organization will carry out its critical business functions during and for up to 1 month of sustained operations after a major disruption occurs. It's your practical blueprint for maintaining vital services.
Okay, let's start with strategy development. What kind of strategies are we talking about developing here? Are we looking at avoiding risks, mitigating them, or something else entirely?
Good question. This step directly bridges the gap between the theoretical analysis of the BIA and the practical, actionable continuity plan. The BCP team takes that meticulously prioritized list of concerns from the BIA and makes concrete decisions about which risks will actually be addressed and how. Any risks that are deemed unacceptable during the strategy development phase must then be mitigated by specific BCP provisions outlined later.
You have to address the unacceptable one.
You have to. It's all about practical and pragmatic considerations, though. For example, the risk of a major blizzard occurring in Egypt is statistically negligible. It certainly doesn't warrant dedicated BCP provisions or resources.
Makes sense.
But a monsoon in New Delhi, that's significant, highly probable. Robust BCP provisions absolutely must be put in place to mitigate its effects. Critically, each of these risk assessments must include careful cost considerations. The cost of implementing the mitigation strategy should always be less than the expected cost of the risk itself if it were to materialize. Cost-benefit analysis.
Right, don't spend more fixing than the problem costs.
Exactly. You never want to do that. Once the BCP team has clearly determined which risks require mitigation, they then move on to developing the specific provisions and processes to put those strategies into action.
So provisions and processes is where we get into the actual nitty-gritty of protecting the organization's assets. What are the key categories of assets that we need to protect, and how do we go about doing that?
Here, we focus on three fundamental interconnected categories of assets that are vital to any organization's continuity: people, buildings and facilities, and infrastructure.
People, buildings, infrastructure.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's start with people.
You've consistently emphasized that people are the absolute top priority. How does BCP ensure their protection and safety?
The safety and well-being of people, your employees, customers, suppliers, any other individuals affected by an emergency is paramount. It must, without exception, always come before the organization's business goals.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Your BCP must make adequate and explicit provisions for their security. Management has a responsibility to provide necessary resources and assign clear tasks to team members to ensure the safety. If a disaster means people cannot be at their usual workplace for extended periods, comprehensive arrangements must be made for shelter, food, water, basic necessities. Continuity plans should include detailed, step-by-step instructions for the BCP team on managing these critical human needs. Organizations should also maintain realistic stockpiles of provisions, things like potable water, first aid kits, non-perishable food, essential medications, and rotate them periodically to prevent spoilage. Never, ever lose sight of the fact that people are your most valuable asset. Their well-being is the fundamental foundation upon which any successful recovery or even continued operation must be built. Without your people, you have no business.
Absolutely. Beyond people, what about protecting the physical locations and facilities that a business relies on? What kind of provisions do we put in place for them?
Right. Many businesses, especially those with manufacturing, retail, or extensive office footprints, rely heavily on specialized facilities, plants, offices, warehouses. Your BIA will have already identified these as critical facilities, indispensable for your operations. Your continuity plan should address two key areas for these physical spaces. First, hardening provisions. These are specific mechanisms and procedures designed to protect your existing facilities.
Hardening, like making them tougher.
Exactly. Think of it like proactively making a building more resilient to anticipated threats. Patching a leaky roof, installing reinforced hurricane shutters in storm-prone regions, adding fireproof walls, reinforcing structures against seismic activity. It's about making your primary location tougher, more resistant to impact, aiming to keep it functional.
Okay.
Second, alternate sites. For scenarios where hardening isn't feasible, or for events severe enough that the primary site becomes completely unusable, you absolutely need alternate sites. These are prearranged locations that allow business activities to resume at a time shorter than your maximum tolerable downtime, or MTD.
The backup location.
Precisely. Alternate sites are very often associated with disaster recovery planning, or DRP, because they involve setting up a fully functional, redundant location where operations can be quickly transferred and resumed.
And finally, infrastructure. This sounds like the critical IT and communication side of things, the digital backbone of an organization. How do we protect that?
Indeed. Infrastructure encompasses the entire IT backbone. Communication systems, vital computer systems, servers, workstations, all the network links connecting them. Your BCP must explicitly address how the organization will protect these systems based on the specific risks identified during strategy development. There are two main methods for providing this crucial protection. One, physically hardening systems. This involves introducing protective measures within your existing facilities. Examples include installing electronic-friendly fire suppression systems that won't damage sensitive equipment, or deploying uninterruptible power supplies, or UPS.
UPS backups, right?
Yeah. Yes. Keeping critical systems running during short power outages, providing time for graceful shutdowns. Two, alternative systems. This involves introducing redundancy at a higher level, meaning duplicate components or entirely redundant systems and communications links, ideally located at geographically distinct facilities.
Redundancy, having spares.
Exactly. It's all about having fully operational backups ready to go. So if one system or location fails, another can immediately and seamlessly take over its functions. These same principles apply to critical business processes that rely heavily on external infrastructure beyond your direct ownership, like national transportation systems, regional electrical power grids, global banking systems.
Things you don't control.
Right. Even if your organization largely moves operations to the cloud, you absolutely shouldn't reduce your diligence. You still rely entirely on the cloud provider's physical infrastructure. Therefore, you need to rigorously ensure their continuity planning is robust, that they have their own hardening and alternative systems in place. A disruption at a key cloud provider can be just as damaging, if not more so, than a failure of your own internal infrastructure.
You need to know their plan, too.
Essential to understand their BCP as if it were your own.
We've meticulously developed the strategies and provisions, outlining how to protect people, facilities, infrastructure. Now, how do we get this massive, comprehensive plan officially approved and actually implemented? Seems like getting that top-level buy-in would be key here.
Absolutely. This is the plan approval and implementation phase. And you're right, top-level management endorsement is not just key, it's absolutely crucial. The signature of a senior leader on the plan, the CEO, chairperson, president, gives it immense weight and credibility throughout the organization. You want to avoid it being perceived as, a trivial IT initiative or a bureaucratic exercise. It needs to be seen and understood as a core business imperative backed by the highest authority.
Who typically signs off on a plan of this magnitude, then? Is it always the chief executive officer, the CEO?
While it's typically the CEO who provides the ultimate sign-off, it could also be the chairperson of the board, the president, or a similar senior business leader. The general rule of thumb is the higher the level of endorsement, the better. It publicly demonstrates the organization's unwavering commitment to business continuity and ensures resources and support will be available when the plan needs to be activated.
Once that crucial approval is secured, how does the actual implementation of the plan unfold? What are the practical steps to move it from paper to practice?
Okay, once you've received that vital approval from senior management, it's time to dive in and start implementing. This involves developing a detailed implementation schedule, clearly outlining how resources will be utilized to achieve the stated process and provision goals. The BCP team then takes on the vital role of supervising the design and ongoing implementation of a BCP maintenance program. This is critical.
Maintenance is key.
Yes, because it ensures the plan remains dynamic and responsive to evolving business needs, new threats, changes in technology. It's not a one-and-done project. It's an ongoing, living process that constantly adapts.
Is it enough to just have the plan documented and technically implemented? What about the people who ultimately have to execute it? How do we ensure everyone understands their role?
That's an astute question, and it highlights a frequently underestimated component. Communication, training, and education are absolutely essential elements of successful BCP implementation. All personnel involved, whether directly executing a specific task or simply needing to understand general emergency procedures, should receive some form of training.
Everyone needs training.
Everyone. Regular briefings help employees understand the potential risks their organization faces and how their individual actions contribute to overall business continuity. People with direct BCP responsibilities must be thoroughly trained and regularly evaluated on their specific tasks, perhaps through realistic drills or simulations. Furthermore, a crucial redundancy measure is to train at least one backup person for every BCP task.
A backup for each role.
Yes, this ensures critical responsibilities can still be carried out if someone is injured, out of reach, or simply unable to report to the workplace during an emergency. This safeguards against single points of failure, even among your personnel.
Smart. What about the documentation for all of this? Is it simply a formal report that gets filed away, or is it something more dynamic?
Oh, BCP documentation is far more than just a formal report that gets filed away. It is, critically, a living document. An organization's continuity requirements are constantly evolving: new tech, market shifts, emerging threats.
Always changing.
Always. Therefore, the BCP document must be periodically reviewed, updated, and tested, not just put on a shelf and forgotten. Minor changes certainly shouldn't require starting the entire BCP development process from scratch. Practicing reasonable version control is key to efficiently tracking updates and maintaining its integrity.
Version control, okay.
The benefits of robust, accessible documentation are truly significant. It ensures personnel have a written reference to consult in an emergency, providing clarity when chaos hits. It provides a comprehensive historical record of the BCP process, invaluable for new team members or audits. And perhaps most importantly, it forces the team to commit their thoughts to paper, acting as a crucial sanity check to identify potential flaws, inconsistencies, and ensure absolute clarity in the plan's execution. This document is the definitive blueprint.
What exactly goes into this comprehensive living documentation? What are its core components?
Okay, the documentation should include several key sections, each serving a distinct purpose. Continuity planning goals, clearly defined by the BCP team and senior management, focusing on continuous operation and meeting specific organizational needs, like maybe a goal of no more than 15 consecutive minutes of downtime for a critical app, or handling 75% of processing load within 1 hour of activation.
Specific measurable goals.
Exactly. Then a statement of importance reflects the absolute criticality of BCP, often a formal letter signed by the CEO or another senior exec, lending immense weight and visibly demonstrating commitment. A statement of priorities, derived directly from the BIA, listing critical functions in explicit prioritized order so everyone knows what comes first.
It's their priority.
A statement of organizational responsibility. This is where a senior exec incorporates the sentiment that business continuity is everyone's responsibility, informing employees, vendors, affiliates of the organization's commitment and expected cooperation. A statement of urgency and timing expresses the criticality of implementing BCP and outlines the realistic implementation timetable, sets clear expectations. A risk assessment section recaps the decision-making from the BIA, including quantitative and qualitative analyses, figures like AV, EF, ARO, SLE, ALE. It's a point-in-time evaluation, needs regular updates. Risk acceptance mitigation outlines the outcome of strategy development, documents risks deemed acceptable with justifications, and those deemed unacceptable with mitigation controls. A word of caution: resist simply accepting difficult risks without robust justification. Auditors will scrutinize these decisions later.
Justify acceptance.
Absolutely. A vital records program outlines precisely how essential business records are stored, backed up, secured. Challenges often involve moving from paper to digital or finding records across diverse IT systems, cloud services, local repositories. The task is to identify, inventory, and secure these vital records.
Finding and protecting the key data.
Yes. And finally, emergency response guidelines outlines clear organizational and individual responsibilities for immediate response during a crisis. This includes immediate response procedures, security, safety, fire suppression, a list of individuals to notify execs, BCP team, secondary response procedures. This documentation should be easily accessible to everyone, especially first responders. In a crisis, time is of the essence.
Clear instructions for the moment it hits. Okay, so once the plan is fully documented and implemented, is that it? Or is BCP a truly ongoing process that requires constant attention?
Oh, it's absolutely an ongoing process, not a static achievement. As we've emphasized, the BCP documentation is a living document. Organizations constantly encounter changing continuity requirements, new tech, market conditions, novel threats. The BCP team must periodically review and rigorously test the plan. You shouldn't have to conduct a full BCP development process from scratch for minor changes. Reasonable version control is key. It's also excellent practice to integrate BCP components directly into job descriptions. Helps keep it fresh in everyone's minds, ensures team members correctly understand and carry out responsibilities.
And testing and exercises sound particularly critical.
Yep.
How important are they to the overall success and effectiveness of the BCP?
They are paramount. The BCP documentation must outline a formalized exercise program to ensure the plan remains current, effective, truly actionable. Exercises are your vital reality checks. They verify the plan works as intended and ensure team members get adequate training to perform duties efficiently and calmly in a disaster.
Practice makes perfect, or at least better.
Exactly. The testing methodologies for a BCP are quite similar to those used for a disaster recovery plan, or DRP, which is explored in more detail in Chapter 18 of our source material. This is how you confirm, unequivocally, that the plan actually works in a real-world scenario. Identifying weaknesses, uncovering bottlenecks, refining procedures before an actual emergency hits. You simply don't want to discover your plan has critical holes when lives, or the very survival of your business, are on the line.
Absolutely crucial point. Wow, we've just completed a truly comprehensive deep dive into business continuity planning. It's abundantly clear that this isn't just a technical exercise for the IT department, but a fundamental strategic imperative for any organization, aiming not just to survive, but to truly thrive in an unpredictable world.
Indeed. We began by defining business continuity planning, or BCP, as that proactive, overarching approach to maintaining continuous operations during disruptions. We explored how it's distinct from, yet intimately complementary to, disaster recovery planning, or DRP, which focuses more on the technical restoration. The critical takeaway there: always, always put people first.
Right. And we systematically explored the four main elements of the BCP process. First, project scope and planning. We honed in on the importance of a thorough organizational review, meticulous selection of a diverse BCP team, crucially including senior management buy-in and careful assessment of both internal resources and external dependencies, like vendors and regulatory requirements. We discovered that buy-in isn't merely a courtesy, it's a profound fiduciary responsibility for leadership.
Then we transitioned into the business impact analysis, or BIA, the analytical heart of understanding potential disruptions. We broke down its 5 stages: identifying priorities using metrics like MTD, RTO, and RPO, identifying natural and person-made risks, assessing likelihood using ARO, and conducting impact analysis, covering both quantitative metrics like SLE and ALE, and vital qualitative factors like goodwill and reputation, while culminating in resource prioritization.
Following the BIA, we delved into continuity planning, where strategies are developed and concrete provisions are put into action. This included protecting people, buildings and facilities through hardening or alternate sites, and vital infrastructure with physical hardening and redundant systems. We learned that even with the cloud, understanding your provider's continuity plan is essential.
And finally, we discussed plan approval and implementation, highlighting the necessity of top-level management endorsement and the meticulous, ongoing process of implementation. We also covered the vital role of communication, training, education, and comprehensive BCP documentation, that living blueprint outlining goals, priorities, responsibilities, urgency, risk assessments, acceptance, vital records, and emergency guidelines. Crucially, BCP is an ongoing commitment requiring continuous maintenance, rigorous testing, and regular exercises. It's a capability, not a checklist.
So what does all of this mean for you, our dedicated listener? As a learner, consider how these powerful principles of BCP extend far beyond the corporate boardroom. Perhaps apply them to your own personal digital life. Are your precious photos backed up? Or to your family's preparedness? Do you have an emergency kit? Or even to your own career resilience? How adaptable are you to sudden changes? How can you build a more robust plan for the unexpected in your own world?
Yeah. Think about what elements of your own life or work you consider mission critical. What's your maximum tolerable downtime for them? It raises an important question worth mulling over. Are you actively preparing for disruptions, or are you just, hoping for the best and crossing your fingers?
A powerful thought to leave us with. We hope this deep dive into business continuity planning has given you a clearer understanding and practical, actionable insights. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning.